The Mazda 3 will always hold a special place in my heart, as my very first new car that I ever bought with my own money was a 2012 Mazda 3. Now this is a far cry from that 2012 Mazda 3. In fact, with the turbocharger, this is quite the sleeper sedan. This one here is a 2024, but I'm going to talk about the changes for 2024 as well as the updates for 2025, since those are pretty minimal. As always, we'll also go through this thing from the outside in, talk about what it's been like to live with for the past week. Let's go ahead, take a look. One of the bigger changes for 2024 is Mazda has shuffled the trim levels a little bit. Now the premium trim level is only available as a front-wheel drive manual hatchback. So there is no more premium sedan, which means a lot of your features are now only in this Turbo Premium Plus edition that I have here. So they've had the Carbon edition Mazda 3 for quite a while. It's a great value play. You get a lot of nice features, but you couldn't get that with the Turbo. Now this year you can get that, but that is only available in the Zircon Sand color. I had that on the Miata a couple of weeks ago. Not my favorite color for a sedan or a sports car, but it works a little bit better on the crossovers. I just wish that you could get a different color with the Carbon Turbo, and that will get you the terracotta interior as well. Pricing for the Mazda 3 remains pretty affordable in the lower trims, but this upper trim here is about $37,000 when you go all the way up to the top spec Premium Plus Turbo here. Oh, no hydraulics here. Got the stick to hold up the hood. Underneath the hood, we're looking at the 2.5 liter SKYACTIV-G 4-cylinder. This is going to be the same motor that Mazda has been using in all of their products for quite a while, with the exceptions of the new CX-90 and CX-70 as well as the Miata. But for most of their lineup, they've been running this 2.5 liter SKYACTIV-G motor for quite a while. This one is turbocharged, since we are in the Turbo Premium Plus trim. The Carbon Turbo is also going to give you the turbocharged version. Of course, it's in the name. This is going to make 250 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque if you want to run premium. That's quite a lot. That's more torque than the Civic Type R I was just in. That's quite a lot of torque and pretty decent power as well. But if you don't want to run premium, you don't have to, and you'll drop down your numbers a little bit. 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Still pretty peppy, still plenty to get you around. If you are not running one of the turbo trim levels here, you get the naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. It's still going to be the 2.5 liter SKYACTIV-G, and that's going to make 191 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque on regular gasoline. And that one, that's really enough for a daily driver. It's really still pretty peppy. This being the turbo, all the turbos are going to get you the all-wheel drive system. There is also a front-wheel drive version if you get one of the naturally aspirated ones, and you're going to be mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission exclusively. Unless you go into the hatchback premium, then you get the 6MT. But for most of the trim levels, you're looking at the same 6-speed automatic that Mazda has been using in pretty much everything for quite some time now. For fuel economy here, we're looking about 27 combined for the turbo trim levels. I'm getting about 26, so that's actually pretty accurate there. Usually I get a lot lower numbers in my testing and my daily driving, but here I'm looking at about 26 on average combined, so that's pretty good. The naturally aspirated version is going to be closer to 30 combined. Pretty decent numbers there. Size-wise, we're pretty squarely in the compact segment here. It's going to compete with your Civic, your Jetta, your Elantra. Those are going to be your main competitors. The Corolla. Corolla is a tiny bit smaller. This one is really right there in the middle between all of those. But this one I think looks the best out of the whole crew. That is definitely subjective, but I think this has the sleekest look to it overall. Now I'll drop a link below to get the full comparison between the different trim levels, but some of the highlights here, we do have the 18s. Most of the trims are going to get you these big 18s. Don't love the black wheels on this one. I mentioned in some of my other videos, like, I don't love black wheels, but they work well on car X or car Y. This is one of the cars I don't think they work particularly well on. Just gives this kind of like floating look to it. I would go with this one of the silver, but can't get the silver wheels with the turbo, unfortunately. We got the mirrors with the LED turn signals. They're heated, blind spot monitoring. You do have keyless access, touch to lock, touch to unlock. Those mirrors do not fold. They don't power fold automatically or anything like that. Love the trim around here. Nice sleek look to it. I just love the shape of it overall. It's like a little bit nicer, a little bit sleeker than a lot of the competition, but without being too out there that you're going to draw a lot of attention, like something like an Elantra N or something, you know, like draw a lot more attention, or a Civic Type R, but Type R is kind of a different animal. But this subtle little spoiler here, that's only because we are in this premium plus trim level here. But just love the look of it. Very sleek look overall. Great looking front end here with the consistent Mazda design here, easily recognizable as a Mazda vehicle. Looks very nice and classy. We do have these parking sensors across the front only because it is the Turbo Premium Plus. Again, since they quietly got rid of that premium trim, then this is the only way to get those parking sensors. It's also the only way to get the signature LED headlights. You do still get LED headlights either way, but these signature design ones are only in the Premium Plus Turbo. Now, if you get the sedan, this is also the only way to get the adaptive headlights. I love adaptive headlights. They'll turn with you at night. Really a great feature to have, but unfortunately only available now on this Turbo Premium Plus trim level. But nice looking front end, lots of cooling through here, throughout. Really a classy looking front end. Love the curve through here. I just wish some of these sensors and the front camera and everything were available on the other trim levels. Nice sleek looking back end here as well. We got the LED combination taillights. Again, the signature LED light, only because we're in this Premium Plus Turbo. All-wheel drive badge, turbo badge. You got the parking sensors across the back. Again, only because we are in this top spec. Mentioned the subtle spoiler. You can pop the trunk here. Nice little classy key. Pops open into pretty decent amount of space here. And my favorite part is underneath here, we actually have a real spare tire. We're not running run flats or anything, and we are not running fix-a-flat kits. Actually have a spare. And you can pull these seats down since we got the 60-40 split on the seats back there. And the nice big dual exhaust tips down there. Those look really nice as well. Get a little bit of turbo pops and bangs. Not the greatest sound when it comes to turbo 4s, but sounds pretty decent. The interior is where Mazda tends to shine. You get an interior that's very nice and punches well above its price point. The problem is for 2024, Mazda has quietly dropped the premium trim level. Unless you want a premium hatchback, you can only get the quote premium with the Turbo Premium Plus, which means now the price point is $37,000. And this is really what you expect from a $37,000 interior. So it's not really punching above the price point anymore. And the Civic has come from behind here and really gotten a much nicer interior for about $30,000. It's pretty much on par with this. Same with the Elantra. The Elantra has a very nice interior, again, for about $30,000 to $32,000. So there's a lot more competition in terms of interiors at this point. Now, that being said, it is still really nice in here. And for our 2024, they've updated the infotainment system. Now in the Carbon Turbo, and the Premium Plus Turbo, you get the 10.25-inch screen with wireless Android Auto, wireless Apple CarPlay, and you have a touchscreen while driving for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Those are great updates, but the problem with that, which I've mentioned in other Mazda videos, is they haven't actually moved the screen any closer. So if you want to use touch while you're driving, then it is pretty difficult to get to. You have to lean for it. So you're still most of the time using this command center down here. That being said, everyone I've talked to that uses this Mazda command center thing with the knobs and the buttons really tends to like it. Everyone I've talked to that has owned a Mazda like 99% of people that have owned Mazdas say, I don't want to go back to a regular touchscreen anyway. Now, the infotainment system does work very well. It's nice and quick. Android Auto connects very quickly, wirelessly. I've had no issues with it at all. You get the wireless charger down here. You get the cup holders that are up out of the way. As long as you don't have those big American cups, if you've got 32-ounce cups, you're going to run into trouble. But other than that, I like that they're shoved up there and out of the way. Gear shift down here. You got lots of extra space down here. You are working with USB-Cs, so if you're still using USB-As, it's time to upgrade, get a few new cables. The seats here, very comfortable, but since the premium has been dropped, now the only way to get the leather trimmed seats is going to be up in the Turbo Premium Plus, or again in the hatchback manual version. But these seats are comfortable. I wish they were a little more aggressive on the bolsters, especially in the turbo trim levels where you might be driving a little bit quicker. But other than that, they're fine. They're comfortable. You get these in black or white. The other trim levels get you lots of choices from colors, materials. There's leatherette, there's cloth, there's red, there's black, there's terracotta. Which trim level you get determines which interior color choices and material choices you get. Again, with this being the only one with premium in the name outside of the manual hatchback, this is the only one with the actual leather trimmed seats. With the leather steering wheel as well, they always lay out their buttons and switches very nicely, easy to use. With Mazda, you're only going to get the paddle shifters because we are in the Turbo Premium Plus. Even the Carbon Turbo does not get the paddle shifters, interestingly enough. But I feel like for most people, it's probably not going to make a huge difference, but it is nice to have those there. Gauge cluster, I love that they still do the big 3 analog gauges, even though the middle one is digital, but it's got an analog look to it. A little bit of information in there. You pretty much have the choice of chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. There's not a whole lot buried in there. So most of your vehicle information is really just going to be through the infotainment and a couple of choices here. But I do like they have the traffic sign recognition in here, which again is only going to be in the Premium Plus Turbo now. The heads-up display here only with the Premium Plus Turbo, again because the Premium has been dropped. This 360 view with easy access to the camera over here, only in the Premium Plus Turbo. The home link with the auto dimming is only in the Premium Plus Turbo as well. You still get the auto dimming in a lot of the other trims, just not the home link. Sunglasses holder available in most of the trim levels. Same with the moonroof. The Bose sound system only in the Premium Plus Turbo, unfortunately. But that's going to be your 12 speaker system. Not that the 8 speaker system in the regular one is bad, but it would be nice to have that 12 speaker as an option on some of the other trim levels. Lots of gloss black over here. I don't love all this gloss black. I know, I get that they're trying to save money. You can go aftermarket and get like carbon fiber trim to fill that in if you're not into it. That's probably what I would do. But I just don't like it. It's all scratched up and dusty. Not my favorite, especially when it's in large swaths. We do have physical buttons and knobs for the HVAC at least. Your heated seats, your heated steering wheel. The heated steering wheel, again, only in the Premium Plus Turbo. But the heated seats are in a lot of the other trim levels. No ventilated seats at all. Again, this is where it's going to start losing to some of the competitors. Like the Elantra I was in a couple weeks ago had ventilated seats, and it was still a really nice interior just in general. It was a lot cheaper. Not quite as quick though. Back seats are getting a little bit tight. Mazda typically has sort of a smaller interior, 35 inches of legroom back there, 35.1 if we want to get exact, which is on the tight side. It is a compact sedan. Like the Elantra, the Jetta, the Civic all have a lot more space. It's going to be more on par with like the Corolla. My kids fit okay back there in their little booster seats. I fit fine. I'm only 5'7", but if you're on the taller side, if you got people back there fairly often or rear facing seats, you're going to probably run into some problems. Cup holders back there with the center armrest. That's in a lot of the trim levels. But generally speaking here, it's really a very nice place to be. A far cry from my 2012 Mazda3 touring sedan that I had. I just wish there wasn't so much gloss black, and I wish you could get some of these features in some of the lower trim levels, really keep the price point down, because $37,000 now we're starting to compete with a lot of other stuff that has an interior that's as good or even nicer than this. So Mazda's sort of losing their edge here a little bit. That being said, at $37,000, it is a nice interior. You expect a nice interior, you get a nice interior. Just would be nice to see this pulled forward a little bit, maybe some ventilated seats, maybe some vents in the back for the kids, and maybe some more options on some of the other trim levels, some of the lower trims. The driving experience here is another place where Mazda tends to shine a little bit above the competition. Again, that's more when it's in the lower trim levels here. When you're facing something like an Elantra, you're going against a regular Civic, a regular Jetta, some of the more sort of economy level cars. Once you start pushing up into this price point, the $35,000 price point, now you're looking at, an A3, maybe an Integra, or if you go more performance oriented, you're looking at a Jetta GLI, a WRX, even a Civic Si. You have more performance oriented options once you start pushing that price point up, Elantra. And so when you're comparing this to the regular versions of those, the Elantra, the Civic, all of those, then you get a little bit more steering feedback, you get a little bit heavier steering, it feels a little bit more engaging, it feels a little bit more fun to drive, it's very quick. I mentioned this has more torque than a Civic Type R, even on 250 horsepower. Also, it's plenty, especially when this is probably your daily driver. An interesting thing about the power delivery, though, is it's very smooth and consistent. It's not like there's not a lot of character to this engine, and it's not going to be quite as rowdy. It's not going to build quite as quickly and give you like this big shove. If you want something that's more along the lines of those more performance oriented cars like those, there's a little bit more sense of occasion with the build of power, whereas this will just sort of like smoothly, quickly get you to speed. And that's whether you're in the regular automatic mode, in normal mode, even if you pop it into sport mode. And I had it in sport mode earlier, and I was using the paddles and I was letting it ring all the way out. It's just like a very smooth build, and then there's sort of a dip in the torque, but there's no like big sense of occasion. It's just like smoothly and quickly gets you to speed, which is great for a daily driver. It's just if you're someone that also wants to go canyon carving or something, then this probably isn't the right one for that. But when you compare it to like the regular Elantra, you compare it to the Corolla, you compare it to the other like sort of more normal stuff at this price point, than more normal compact sedans, and it handles really well, even with the torsion beam suspension. But then once you start going up into Civic Si, Elantra N, WRX, then it's not going to be able to keep up with those in a more performance-oriented setting. So it's sort of this interesting kind of middle spot in terms of the driving experience here. But for the daily drive, it's a pretty comfortable ride. It's again like sort of right in the middle here in terms of the ride quality. It's not super comfortable, but it's a compact sedan, so you don't necessarily expect it to be super comfortable. It's a little bit worse than the regular Elantra in terms of the ride quality, but it's a little bit better. It's definitely a lot better than something like a Civic Si or a WRX or something a little bit more performance oriented. So again, like sort of right in the middle there in terms of ride quality. It's not going to beat you up. It's going to be fine for the daily commute, unless you have like a really bad back or something. And the sound in here, it is a little bit on the loud side. Wish it was a little bit quieter, especially here in the upper trim level. In the top spec, I expect it to be a little bit quieter. But overall, we're sort of right in the middle there. And I mentioned the paddles here. This does have the 6-speed automatic transmission. So that is one thing that also gives it an advantage over a lot of, again, like the sort of more normal stuff. Is the more commuter-oriented stuff is it has an actual automatic transmission, versus a lot of the other stuff has a CVT, like the regular Civic has a CVT, the Corolla has a CVT, the Integra even has a CVT. So this one does have the regular automatic transmission. It is a 6-speed automatic. It's a little bit old. It's not like super quick, but it gets the job done here. And just if you're someone that more prefers to have distinct gears, then that is going to be an advantage. But then again, since we are at this price point, you're also fighting against the transmission like an Audi A3. You're fighting against the dual clutch in the Elantra N. Like the Jetta GLI has a really good dual clutch. So it really sort of depends on where you stand on the whole CVT versus not kind of battle, and whether you need something that's like really more performance oriented like a dual clutch, or if you just want to stick with the regular torque converter automatic. For me personally, if I would just want like a regular commuter, I would stick with the regular torque converter automatic, just because that is a little bit smoother in traffic. It's a little bit easier to deal with in normal daily driving, whereas a dual clutch can get a little jerky when you get on the slower traffic. And then the CVT is just like a little bit drony and not as engaging. And when it comes to driver's assist type stuff, you know, with this being the Premium Plus, it gets loaded out with everything. You get the heads-up display, you get the parking sensors, you get the full 360 camera, you get the radar cruise with stop and go, you get the rear cross-traffic brake support and the rear parking brake support. All of those things are only in this Premium Plus trim. So you gotta load it out and get the turbo if you want all of that stuff. It would have been nice to see some of those features in one of the lower trims, like without the turbo, just so they could keep the price point down a little bit. But all that stuff works really well. It works great. So that heads-up display is pretty nice. It'll show you directions as well. This does have the lane shove assist. That's going to be on all the trim levels, or if you start to go out of your lane, it'll kind of shove you back in, as well as the blind spot monitoring, going to be on all the trim levels. And those are Mazda's a little bit more intrusive than a lot of the other brands for those things. So, you know, hopefully they can like tone those down a little bit. At least they're not like super harsh. Like the beep is like a nice chime to it, so it's not like a super harsh in your face beep. But I do wish that they would just sort of tone that down a little bit, make it a little bit less aggressive, or let you adjust it or something. This also does have has the lane centering, but Mazda's lane centering is more kind of like bouncy back and forth. It's more just the lane shove assist kind of thing, getting you not really keeping you right in the center of your lane, just keeping you from leaving your lane. So sort of the moral of the story here in terms of the driving experience is it's great for a commute. It is nice and quick. The turbo makes it quick. It just, if you're looking for something that's a commuter car that's comfortable, that's quick, then this is a great option. If you're looking for something that's more performance oriented, that you want to push a little bit more often, then you start running into a lot of competition at this price point in the top spec. I wish that you could get the non-turbo, because the non-turbo is still pretty punchy, still pretty peppy, with a lot more of these like comfort and driver's assist and like the Bose sound system and all of that. Sort of a little bit more of a middle ground here, rather than having to go all the way to the top spec to get everything here. At the end of the day, Mazda still holds a special place in my heart. As I mentioned, my first car was a 2012 Mazda 3, the first one that I bought for myself, and I loved that thing. I love this car as well. You get a nice interior, you get plenty of pep with this turbo engine. The only problem is you've kind of lost the value proposition, which is what has made Mazda so great in the past. You get a lot for your money. Now you kind of get what you expect for your money. This will compete with something like a Jetta GLI in terms of price point. An Elantra N is going to get you something a little more rowdy, not as nice on the inside, but a little bit more performance oriented. You're in like WRX territory here as well. You really have a lot of competition at this price point. But if you want something that's more of a sleeper sedan, it's quick, but also comfortable, maybe blends in a little bit more than something like an Elantra N or a WRX, then this is definitely still a great package. I just don't feel like you quite get the same kind of value proposition that you had with Mazda in the past. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.